Hello, excited for a new lesson? I hope so, because this is going to be a long one. Now that we know how the box model works, let's build a simple layout for our blog page. This is where all the fun begins. We want a layout just like this one. So we want a box with our main content, a box for the author info, and a box to show what other blog posts are on our blog. We will start by putting all the content we have so far inside a container and center that container on the web page, like most of the websites you use every day do. We will do that by using the div element, which we have not talked about yet. The div element is one of the most used elements. Div stands for divide, and so we use it simply to divide our page into sections by creating boxes where we put our contents in. So let's wrap all the content we have so far inside a div element. Starting right here, just write div. Some space, and I'll copy everything, all the content we have so far. I will cut it and paste it right here. Now I need to indent this code by using the tab key. I will show you in a second, so that the code looks much better and is easier to read with these indents. So HTML is the first level, that is the second level, that's the third level, and everything inside the div is the fourth level. And then third level, second level, first level. So now let's call this div container. So container. And like I showed you before, we will use Command E, this time with the cursor on this class name. Command E, and then we will make a new rule for this class. So the class selector and the name of the class container, and now we can write our styles for this class. First, I will define the width of this, and I will use 1140 pixels as a width. The standard width has been 960 pixels for a long time, but as screens are getting larger and larger, we can also make wider web pages. So let me just make these windows bigger so we can see what's happening here. And now we want this container to be centered in the window, not all the way to the left. So let's go back to brackets and do that. And it's actually easier than it sounds. In order to do that, we have to define the left and the right margin of the container to be auto. Margin left, auto, and margin right, auto. And the auto means that the left and right margin are adjusted automatically according to the context of the element, which is the browser window in this case. So let's see what happened. So now, like magic, the website is centered. Now even if I adjust the browser window, our content always stays centered. You see? Now let's go back and create those three boxes that we saw earlier. Again, we use the div element to do that. Div, and I will call the first one blog post and close this. So instead of copying all the content, I will just delete this closing tag and put it where we want it to be. And it's down here, you see? Because here is the part where the author begins and everything above it is the blog post. And brackets automatically closes that for us. And now again, let's indent this code so that it's easier to read. Just like this. Now below this, I'll create the container for the other blog post, which will be the green box if you remember it. So div class other posts. It's a great name for this, I think. Now we'll just put some dummy text here for now. And finally, the box for the author. Div class author box. Don't want this here. Okay, now indent the code and save it. Never forget to save. So let's just give them different background colors so we can see on a web page what's going on. Again, I will hit Command E because that's the easiest way instead of switching back and forth between HTML and CSS files. So in order to specify a background color, it's very easy. Just write background color and then choose a color. Well, if you remember from our color lecture, blue is red 0, green 0, and blue FF. Okay, let's close this. Blog post, now the other posts. New rule for this one. And now again, background color. This one is green, so 0 for red, FF for green, and 0 for blue. If you put the cursor on this color, we can actually see it. Yeah, it's green, as we want it. And now the author box. Let's define a style for this one. Background color, we want it yellow. So it's FF for red, FF for green, and 0 for blue. So yellow. We'll close these ones, and now let's check our web page again. So blue is the first box, green is the second box, and yellow is the third box. Now I want the width of the actual blog post to be 75% of the container and the other blog post section to be 25%. And that's very easy. So the blog post, we just need to say width 75%, blog post, and the other posts, Command E, with 25%. So you see, we cannot use only pixels to define measures, but also percentages, which will become very handy later on. Now it's 75%, and that's just 25% here, the green box. Now, to put the green box beside the blue box as we want it for a layout, we need to use a new property called float. And this is very important. With float, an element can be pushed to the left or to the right, allowing other elements to wrap around it. So if we define the float property for the blue and for the green box as left, the two boxes will be side by side. So let's do that. We'll start down here. Float left. And the blue box also. float left. So let's see what this looks like. Great, these two boxes are side by side now. Now the problem is, the yellow box is also up here where we don't want it. To avoid this, we got to use a clear property, which is like the counterpart to float. And I'm actually going to do this in a very specific way. So please just copy the CSS code I'm going to write here, because it's not important that you understand it at this point. I will use the very usual clear fix class. Just write clear fix after. Again, it's not important that you understand what I'm writing here right now. We will just use this class. And clear both. Save. So now after the green box, let's just add an empty div with the clear fix class. This may look a little strange to you now, but don't worry. We will see how to use this later. Clear fix. Okay, now it should work. Yeah, that's it. Now we see that the yellow class is down here as we wanted. So we have these two boxes side by side with the float property, and then we used the clear property in that strange clear fix class to clear the float so that this box can be right under these two boxes. And now let's just add some margins and paddings. You see the blue box and the green box here are way too close together. So we can add paddings to those boxes. So I will just go back. Now I will actually use a CSS file again. So you see all those classes we created inside the HTML file. Brackets put those down here at the end of the CSS document. The container, the blog post, the other posts, and the author box. Now let's just add a padding to the right side of the blog post. If you remember, padding is like a white space inside the box. We'll just say padding right, let's say 30 pixels. Okay, let's see. So you see this space here, but still inside the box, so it's still blue. And that will give us a nice spacing between those two boxes. Now we should also put a little margin between the top of the container and the browser window. So to give it a nice spacing between the beginning of the browser window here, you know, and the beginning of the content. That's easy. The easiest way may be in the container element. If we set the margin top of the container to, let's say, 20 pixels, then we have this nice spacing all the way up here. Okay, now let's just get rid of those ugly background colors. We just used them so we could see the boxes while we were working on them. Now, maybe you see here in the container declaration block that we have these three margins: margin left, margin right, and margin top. There's actually a cleaner way of doing this, and I will just show you how. You can just write margin, and then we specify the 4 possible margins in this shorthand property. So this goes like the top margin is first. I will just write it here so you can see it. It's top is the first, then the right, then bottom, and then left. So the top bottom we want to be 20 pixels, right? Then the right is auto, the bottom is 0 because we don't have any margin at the bottom, and left is auto again. So this short declaration here does the exact same thing as this. Just remember, it's margin top, right, bottom, and left. So I can just delete it and things will look exactly the same. So all the margins are still there, and as you see, these ugly background colors are also gone. Another cool thing we could do is to add like a gray line here to separate the author box from the two boxes above them. So let's just go back to the author box and we'll use a border property. And this border property allows you to do three things: the border width, the line type, and the color. So just write border and top because we want it to be at the top of the box, and then say 1 pixel width, and we want it to be solid, so just a normal solid line, and then a nice gray color. Remember how to do a gray color? You just have to put the same value on the three R, G, and B channels. Let's say 333. Then with our color picker, Command E, and we can just adjust it and use another different gray. So maybe this one here, I don't know. Alright, save it. And here we go. Here we have this nice gray line. And we probably also want some padding here, so that all this content is not just glued right to the top of this div element. So let's also define some padding at the top. Let's say 20 pixels. These numbers are not important at this stage because, you know, we're just trying out some things here. Alright, so you see, now we have this nice padding here. So, alright, I think we're pretty much done with our layout here. So we used float and clear in order to put all our layout boxes where we wanted them, and we used padding and margin to create some distances between the boxes, and that's essentially all you need in order to build some layouts. So in the next lecture we'll just improve some things here on our website in order to make it look a little bit better and to teach you some more techniques that you can use. Alright, so see you there.